So I have created a new project, SQL demo, and in here we'll see how to insert a record into the SQLite database. So first let me do the design. Created this design, so it has three text view and then a button. So each of this is having its ID. Button is having add button and then name, email, and a phone number. Okay, so now let's go to the main activity. So here I'll create their instances. I have created their references and I have assigned it to this variables using the find view ID. So this is the ID which I have given over there for button and this text fields. Okay, so after doing this much, so now we need to uh, create a class which will help us to interact with the SQLite. So for that, go to the project, and in here, so in the Java, so here you can right click and then you can go to this new, and here you can create this new Java class. So I'll create a class called as DB helper. So this can be used to interact with the SQLite database. So here what you need to do is, so Android is already providing us the SQLite by default, so we can just extend that class. So you can give extends. If you give like SQLite, so there are two things, SQLite database and SQLite open helper. So you need to use the open helper class. Once you have extended this class, if you just hover over here and if you click on this, so here you can see implement methods. So just click on this implement method and select both of this and give OK. So okay, so you will get these two functions. So now again go here and click on this. It will ask you to create a constructor. So just create a constructor by selecting only one. Okay, so now you have this constructor. Okay, so now this much by default we have to do. Okay, so let's see what it is. So first you are having this constructor. So in this constructor you can see it is taking a context. So context is like where you want to create this database. I mean, now I want to create the database in this using this file only, so that's why I'll keep this as it is. So this will create an object in this class. So next you are having the name of the database, and then you are having a thing called as factory, and then you are having the version. So what I'll do is, so instead of passing all these values through a function, I will directly write it over here. Keep the context as it is, and then in the name give the database name. So now I'm creating a database for storing contact number. So I'll create a database called as contacts.db. So then factory you can just give it as null, and then version you can pass it as 1. So now since you are passing everything over here, you need not use the variables which are declared over here. So I'll just remove these variables. Right, so now our constructor is created. So once this is done, so this will create this create a database for us. So now in that database we need to create a table. Now to create a table, first of all we need to write the queries. So queries, these are similar to our DBMS, like there we used to write the queries to fetch the values from the table. Similar to that, we are writing the queries over here. So first I'll create a query. So first of all, on create we need a table, right? So first of all we are creating a table. So I'll write the query as create table. I'll create a table called as contacts table. So here the cases of the letter doesn't matter, it can be either uppercase or lowercase, no problem. So now create table, contacts table. So in this I'll pass in the column values. So first of all I'll have a ID, so it will act as a so ID will be a integer. It will act as a primary key, and you can make it as auto increment. So if you do it as auto increment, so it will automatically get incremented, so you need not update it manually. Then you can use name of the person, so it will be text. Then you will have a phone number, I'll keep it as text only, and then we can have one more field called email. Okay, so now you have this query. So now it's so this is okay, so now this is a string, so we have not executed it. So now to execute this query, so what you can do is, so here you can see there is a object called as db, so which is of the type SQLite database. So this db object is having he's having various methods through which we can execute whatever query we write. So if you do db dot execute SQL, so if you see this, so this will take in a query, it will take in a string as a parameter, so I'll directly pass this query over here. So now when I pass this query, so it will create a table named as contacts table. Okay, so if you just remove it, so it's a primary key and then it's auto incremented. So it will create a table with this many columns. Okay, so now let's run this and see. Now I have installed the app. So now if you go to the database inspector, which is over here, so here you can see it won't show anything because we have not connected our main activity with the DB helper, which is over here. So let's do that first. Okay, so now this much is done. So now let's create, and so now come to this main activity, and here let's create a object of DB helper. So now we are having DB helper, I'll create an object called as DB. Okay, so right, so now if I go to the design, so on click of the add, so all these fields should be entered into the table, right? So we are basically inserting these values in the table. So but here, so we have only written a query for table creation, but we have to write but we have not written anything for how the values will be inserted into the table. So we need to create one more query which says about insertion of data into the table. So let's do that. Okay, so now let's now to write a query, so we can put it in a function. So I'll create a function called as add contact. So let it be void first. So this add contact function will so this add contact function will take in values such as name, then we are having email, then we are having phone. So it will take these three parameters and it will put it in the database. Now to uh, insert the values into the database, so we need a object which is similar to this. We need a db object, so but in here we don't have a db object, so first we will create the object. So you can do something like this, you can do SQLite database, SQLite database db. Now in this db, So there is a method which is used to insert the values into the table. So you can use db.insert. Okay, so here you have just created the object, but you have not assigned the database to it, right? So what you'll do is, instead of this SQL database, what you can do is you can use the object this, and then you can do something like get a writable database, because you are inserting the value, that is you are changing the values which are present in the database, right, in the table. So that's why you have to use you are using the writable database function. Okay, so now you have the db object. Now if you go to this insert, so here you can see insert will take a table, and then it will take a null column hack, and it will take something, it will take a value, it will take values which are of the type content value. So now let's see what this content value does. Okay, so now we need to pass in three parameters. So the last parameter was content values. So content values is nothing but the values which you want to insert. So now let's create a object of content value. So then in this content value we are passing in the whatever object we have. So if you do this, take the CV, the object, and in that you can use something called as put. So inside the put, it takes the thing as key value pad. So it will take uh, the column name, the table which you have, and then it will insert, then it will assign the corresponding values. So now since, so you can you need not insert this because it's auto incremented id. So you can start it with the name, then the phone, and then the email. So you need to follow the same order. So now we are having this name over here. So what you can do is you can do insert, you can give the column name, this name, sorry, not there. This is db insert, and then in the cv dot put, so first of all you are having the name, and then the value which you are passing. So this is this name. So similar thing has to be done with remaining three. I'm having the phone column, and then there is email column, and in here the values which are passed through the function. Okay, so now we have done, now we have assigned this much to this CV object, so that thing you can pass. So now coming back to this insert, so insert, so the first parameter is this table. So now we are having this table called as contacts table. So we'll take this and we'll put it here. Then it was taking a null column hack. You can just pass in that as null, and then it was taking the values, so it's content value, so we are passing in CV. Okay, so now what it will do is, so insert will basically return you see if the insertion is successful, then it will return you, then it will be values are inserted onto the table. But if it is not successful, so then it will return you the -1. So now let's take this -1 here. So now here you can see, so now if res will be -1, you can just print it as, you can just log the values, log d, and give it as message. So here you can give it as error, or else it will be successful. Okay, so now we have done this much. So we have written this function over here. So we need to use this function in the main activity. Now on click of the add button, all the values should be inserted into the table. So now I'll take the add button, I'll add a listener onto it, and then on click of this, all the values should be inserted. So I have this db object, db dot, so you can see there is this add contacts which we have created just now. So it will take the three parameters, name, email and phone, but we first need to get the values from the column. So I'll create something called a string n equals to, from the name, get the text and convert it to string, get the phone, get the email and pass it over here, name, phone and email. Okay, so now this much is done. Values are, so now let's see whether the values are being inserted or not. Okay, so here you have just created this object which is of this type, but you have not initialized this to anything. So on create, what should happen is, so db should be assigned to that. So I'll make new db helper, and if you go here, so it takes in the context. So I want to create in this with respect to main activity, I need to create this database over here. So now I have initialized this object with this. So now let me run the see. Okay, so now I have clicked on the add. So now you can see like the table has been created. Now you can see, now I have inserted some values in here. So if you click on, double click on this, so you can see the id, name, phone and email which are being entered. So this is the id which is auto incremented. So now if I try to insert something new, and I'm clicking on add. So if you just do the refresh table, so here you can see this is the new value which I have entered just now, and it's getting entered. Okay, so here I guess the value of phone and email have been interchanged. So it's because in the activity main, I guess. Okay, so okay, so while add contact, so in here I have reversed this thing. So just make this as phone and this thing as email. So okay, so now let me enter some new values. Okay, so now this table has been created, and if you go here, so you can see now the phone is proper. Phone is 344, and this is this. Okay, So this was about inserting the data into the table. So now in the next part we'll see like how to fetch this value and show it onto the screen using the recycler view.